The body of Moses, the first confrontation. Imagine a desolate scene at the top of Mount Nebo, where the great leader Moses took his last breath. Moses, the man chosen by God to free the Israelites from Egyptian captivity, now rests in peace. His body, a sacred relic of a life of obedience and miracles, attracts the attention of the most cunning enemy, Satan. At this critical moment, Archangel Michael emerges, sent by God with a clear mission: to protect Moses' body. But why would the body of a man, no matter how important, be the subject of a celestial dispute? What was at stake was much more than Moses' mortal remains. It was a conflict over divine authority, God's honor, and the protection of his people. Satan, the tireless adversary, saw in Moses' body an opportunity to sow discord and doubt. He wanted to claim the body, perhaps to use it as a symbol of his rebellion, or to demoralize the people of Israel. Satan's cunning is unmatched. He knows that weakening the faith of God's people begins by attacking their leadership and legacy. But Michael, faithful and obedient, is not intimidated. Instead of entering into a direct dispute of words or force, he chooses a path of submission and reverence. "The Lord rebuke you," says Michael, recognizing that ultimate authority belongs to God and not to him. This act of submission is powerful. It is a declaration that even the most powerful archangels must act under divine authority. In this confrontation, there are no shouts or physical battles, but a deep respect for God's orders. The protection of Moses' body becomes a symbol of divine protection over those he loves and calls. Michael, by defending Moses' body, also defends God's purpose and the dignity of his servanthood. Michael's presence, the silent strength of his obedience, and unwavering trust in God's justice show us the importance of recognizing God's role in our lives. It is a reminder that in the face of the enemy's assaults, our strength lies in submission to divine will and trust in his protection. This first confrontation between Michael and Satan is a powerful illustration that the true battle is not won with brute force, but with fidelity and obedience to God. In a world where the enemy constantly seeks ways to divert and weaken our faith, Michael's example calls us to remain firm, trusting in the authority and protection of our Creator. And so, in the quiet of Mount Nebo, under the watchful eye of Archangel Michael, Moses' body remains untouched, protected not only by celestial power, but by unbreakable fidelity to God. The nature of Satan: cunning and betrayal. Imagine a being created with incomparable beauty, immense wisdom, and a prominent position in heaven. This was Lucifer, the light bearer, before his fall. But how did such an exalted being transform into humanity's most feared adversary? The answer lies in Satan's nature, a nature marked by cunning and betrayal. Lucifer, once glorious, was consumed by pride. He desired more than the honor of serving God. He wanted God's throne itself. This unbridled ambition is the root of his fall. He did not rebel impetuously, but with a meticulous strategy, poisoning other angels' minds with his lies and promises of power. Satan's cunning lies in his ability to make evil appear attractive, to turn truth into doubt. When he was expelled from heaven, Lucifer became Satan, the accuser, the deceiver. He did not give up his quest for power. Instead, he redirected his cunning against God's creation, humanity. From the Garden of Eden, we see Satan in action, using the serpent to deceive Eve with his smooth and seductive words. "You will not surely die," he said, planting the seed of disobedience in man's heart. He distorted God's truth, presenting rebellion as a path to wisdom and freedom. Satan continues to use this same cunning today. He knows our weaknesses, fears, and desires. He manipulates circumstances and people to draw us away from God, whispering lies that appeal to our pride and insecurity. He can appear as an angel of light, masking his evil intentions with promises of happiness and success. He's a master of dissimulation, turning sin into something desirable and harmless. However, it is crucial to understand that Satan does not act only directly. He works behind the scenes, fomenting divisions, spreading falsehoods, and creating chaos. He feeds on doubt and despair, always looking for a weak point to exploit. His betrayal is not evident at first glance. It is subtle, insidious, slowly infiltrating people's lives until his influence becomes undeniable. But amid this darkness, we have a firm hope. The Bible warns us to be vigilant, to put on the armor of God, to resist the devil, standing firm in the faith. Recognizing Satan's cunning nature, we are called to seek the truth in God, to keep our hearts and minds focused on His Word, and to trust in His protection. Satan's story is a powerful warning that external beauty and wisdom can be corrupted by pride and rebellion. It is a call for spiritual vigilance and continuous dependence on God. For, understanding the nature of our enemy, we can better prepare to resist his temptations and remain firm in the divine truth. And so, while Satan continues to plot and deceive, we remain anchored in the certainty that with God on our side, we can overcome any of the enemy's schemes. Satan's cunning may be great, but God's grace and power are infinitely greater. War in heaven, preparations and tactics. Imagine a scenario of pure celestial majesty, where God's glory illuminates everything around. But even in this place of light and peace, a storm brews. The war in heaven is not an ordinary conflict. It is the ultimate battle between good and evil, between Archangel Michael and Satan. But before the heavenly swords were raised, there were meticulous preparations and carefully elaborated tactics. At the heart of this war was Lucifer's rebellion. He who once walked amid the fire of precious stones in God's paradise now sought to overthrow the very Creator. Lucifer, with his cunning, began gathering followers among the angels. He convinced them with promises of power and glory, distorting the truth with his seductive lies. This was the first strategic move, sow discord and doubt among the heavenly hosts. But God, omniscient, was not caught by surprise. He had already prepared his celestial army, led by Michael, an archangel of incomparable courage and unwavering obedience. Michael possessed not only strength, but also the wisdom and discernment to face such a treacherous enemy. Heaven's preparations were not only physical but spiritual and strategic. Each angel under Michael's command was ready, not only with celestial weapons, but with God's truth and justice as their armor. When the battle finally began, heaven witnessed an epic conflict. Satan's tactics were cunning. He attacked with deceit and illusions, trying to confuse and divide. But Michael, with his absolute devotion to God, led the heavenly hosts with authority and clarity. He knew that his army's strength was not just in the weapons they wielded, but in their faith and obedience to the Almighty. Amid the tumult of battle, we can imagine the war cries, the sound of celestial swords, and the intense light of each blow exchanged. Satan, with his fallen followers, fought fiercely, but without God's blessing and power, their forces were destined to fail. Michael, with resolute calm, commanded his troops, repelling every attack with a force that could only come from complete submission to the Creator. Michael's strategy was clear. He did not trust in his own strength, but in God's promise and power. He did not need arrogant words or grand gestures. His faith and obedience were his greatest weapons. And so, while Satan and his fallen angels tried to create chaos, Michael maintained order, leading his angels with the authority that came from his faithfulness to God. This war in heaven was not just a fight for power. It was a fight for truth, justice, and faithfulness. The meticulous preparation and spiritual tactics of Michael and his angels show us that true victory does not come from brute strength, but from alliance with God and obedience to His will. In the war in heaven, we saw the ultimate manifestation of the conflict between good and evil, between light and darkness. And in the end, divine justice prevailed, not because Michael and his angels were stronger, but because they were firmly rooted in God's truth and power. This battle reminds us that in our own spiritual struggles, the preparation and tactics that truly matter are those that draw us closer to our Creator, filling us with His strength and wisdom. And so, the war in heaven, with all its preparations and tactics, is not just a story of a distant past, but a living lesson for us today. May we, like Michael, always be ready, equipped with God's truth and justice, to face any battle that comes our way. The dragon and his angels. The cosmic battle. Imagine a vast battlefield, not on known lands, but in heaven itself, where divine light touches every corner. In this celestial scenario, peace and order seem about to break. At the center of this turmoil, a terrifying figure arises, the dragon. This is not an ordinary dragon, but the personification of Satan, God's enemy, full of wrath and determination to usurp the divine throne. At his side, a legion of fallen angels, ready to fight for the cause of evil. The cosmic battle that unfolds is not just a physical confrontation, but a clash of spiritual and moral forces. The dragon, with his imposing appearance and destructive flames, leads his fallen angels with uncontrolled fury. He is a being of cunning and deceit, who once dressed in light, but now reveals himself in his true nature, a being of darkness and corruption. On one side, the army of darkness, a vast number of angels who chose to follow Satan in his rebellion. They are powerful, but their strength is tainted by disobedience and arrogance. Their motivation is clear: to challenge God's authority, spread chaos and destruction, and try to establish a kingdom based on lies and betrayal. On the other side, the heavenly hosts, led by Archangel Michael. They are armed not only with swords of light, but with God's justice and truth. Each angel under Michael's command is a warrior of light, radiating the Creator's glory and power. Michael, in all his majesty, is a leader of unwavering courage and deep faith. He knows that this battle is not just about the present, but about the future of all creation. As the two armies meet, heaven resounds with the sound of an epic conflict. The celestial swords collide, emitting divine light sparks that cut through the darkness. The dragon launches his flames, trying to devour everything in his path, but is constantly repelled by the pure strength and holiness of the celestial army. Michael, with his shining sword, faces Satan directly, each blow a symbol of the fight between truth and lies, obedience and rebellion. The fallen angels, despite their ferocity, begin to realize the futility of their fight. They are confronted not only by the strength of the loyal angels, but by God's very justice that permeates the battlefield. Each time a light angel defeats a fallen angel, it is a testimony to the unshakable power of goodness and faith. The dragon, seeing his plans collapse, redoubles his efforts, trying to use all the tricks and deceits he knows. But Michael, firm in his mission, remains relentless. He does not fight alone. He is sustained by God's will and power. And so, every movement of his sword is an expression of divine victory over the forces of evil. In this cosmic battle, it is not just strength that decides the outcome, but faithfulness. Michael and his angels demonstrate that true strength comes from obedience to God, trust in His justice, and commitment to His truth. The dragon's defeat is not just a military victory, but a reaffirmation of divine order and God's sovereignty over all creation. The cosmic battle ends with Satan and his fallen angels being expelled from heaven, an act that echoes through eternity as a reminder of good's triumph over evil. The dragon is defeated not only by strength, but by God's truth and justice, defended by Michael and his celestial warriors. And so, The vision of a heaven restored to its original glory inspires us to maintain our own faithfulness to God, knowing that, like Michael, we are called to defend truth and justice, always trusting in our Creator's power and sovereignty. The power of submission, Michael, and obedience to God. In a universe where power and strength are often confused with authority, the figure of Archangel Michael teaches us a crucial lesson about true power. The power of submission. Michael, one of the most powerful archangels, stands out not only for his strength or leadership, but for his total obedience to God. It is in this submission that his true power lies. From creation, Michael was an example of faithfulness and loyalty. He did not seek his own glory, but was always ready to serve the Creator in everything. His celestial life is a testimony that true greatness comes from humility and the willingness to fulfill the divine will, regardless of the cost. Michael knew that his power was not intrinsic but derived from his connection and obedience to God. Michael's obedience is most evident in moments of greatest challenge. When he first faced Satan, defending Moses' body, Michael did not rely on his own authority. Instead, he said, "The Lord rebuke you." This act of submission reveals his deep understanding that ultimate authority belongs to God. Michael knew that even a powerful archangel must submit to the divine will. In the great cosmic battle against the dragon, Michael's obedience becomes even more evident. He leads the heavenly armies not as an autocratic dictator, but as a faithful servant of God. Every command he gives, every move he makes, is an expression of his submission to the divine will. It is this obedience that guarantees his victory, for he fights not for his own cause, but for God's cause. Michael shows us that submission is not weakness, but a source of immense power. In a world that values independence and self-sufficiency, Michael's life is a reminder that true strength lies in recognizing our dependence on God. By submitting to His will, we find a power that transcends any earthly force. It is through obedience that we align with the divine purpose and become instruments of His will. Michael's submission is also a call to humility. He, who holds such an elevated position, never exalts himself above the other angels. He recognizes his position before God and acts with a humility that reflects the Creator's glory. This humility is an essential component of his power, for through it, he maintains an unbreakable connection with the source of all authority, God. Michael teaches us that obedience is not mere conformity, but an active response to God's call. It is an act of total trust in the divine plan, even when we do not fully understand God's design. By following God's will, Michael becomes an example for all of us, showing that true freedom and power come from living in harmony with the divine will. Michael's life is a powerful testimony that by submitting to God we find our true strength. In his obedience, he becomes a channel for divine power, a defender of justice, and a leader of the heavenly hosts. He shows us that submission to God does not diminish us, but elevates us, for it allows us to participate in His redemptive work in the world. So, as we contemplate Michael's example, we are challenged to examine our own lives. Are we willing to follow God with the same faithfulness and obedience? Can we trust His leadership and submit to His plan, even when it is difficult? May we learn from Michael, recognizing that in submission to God, we find true power and true freedom. The celestial victory, the defeat of Satan. Imagine a scene of intense battle, where the forces of good and evil clash in a final confrontation. At the center of this cosmic conflict is Archangel Michael, leading the heavenly hosts against Satan, the dragon, and his fallen angels. This is no ordinary combat. It is the culmination of a rebellion that began ages ago, now reaching its decisive climax. Heaven resounds with the echoes of a fierce war, light and darkness clashing in a spectacle of power and determination. Satan, with his unparalleled fury, launches attack after attack, his lies and deceits turned into lethal weapons. He is a cunning and relentless adversary, determined to usurp the divine throne and destroy celestial order. But amid the chaos, Michael's imposing figure stands out. He wields his sword of light with authority and conviction, each strike reflecting his unwavering faith in God. Michael does not fight only with strength, but with a deep trust in divine justice. He knows this battle is not just about power, but about truth, obedience, and faithfulness to the Creator. As the battle intensifies, it becomes clear that the heavenly hosts, led by Michael, possess a strength the fallen angels cannot match. This strength comes not only from their ability, but from their alliance with God. God's truth and justice shine through each loyal angel, repelling the darkness Satan tries to spread. In a decisive moment, Michael and Satan face each other. The dragon, with all his tricks, tries to intimidate and divert Michael, but the archangel's faith remains unshaken. He recalls God's words, the promises of victory for those who remain faithful. With a final blow of his divine sword, Michael strikes down Satan, proclaiming God's supremacy over all creation. Satan's defeat is complete and decisive. The dragon and his fallen angels are expelled from heaven, cast out of the celestial domain. This victory is not just a military one. It is a reaffirmation of divine order, justice, and truth that govern the universe. Satan's rebellion is crushed, and heaven is restored to its original peace and harmony. As the heavenly hosts celebrate, Michael remains humble, knowing that this victory is, above all, God's victory. He bows in reverence to the Creator, recognizing that his strength and power come from his submission and obedience to God. The glory belongs to the Lord, who, through his loyal angels, demonstrated that good will always prevail over evil. Satan's defeat is a powerful message for all of us. It reminds us that no matter the battles we face, God's truth and justice are invincible. In moments of darkness and challenge, we can look to Michael's example and find courage and strength in our faith. The celestial victory is a testament that with God on our side, no force of evil can defeat us. And so, the story of Satan's defeat inspires us to remain firm in our faith, to trust in divine justice, and to remember that in the end, God's light always triumphs over darkness. Divine protection, lessons from the conflict. Visualize the grandeur of heaven after the great battle, where peace and order are restored. The celestial victory over Satan was not just an event of great magnitude, but a profound lesson about the divine protection that extends over all creation. This cosmic conflict between good and evil teaches us much about the care and defense God offers to his children. The first lesson from this confrontation is the realization that God is always in control. Even when the forces of evil rise with fury, God is not caught by surprise. He prepared his angels, led by Michael, to face and defeat Satan. This reminds us that in our lives, even in the greatest storms, God has a plan and is always ready to protect us. Michael, by faithfully following God's orders, exemplifies the importance of obedience for divine protection. He did not act on his own, but followed the Creator's will with precision and humility. This obedience is a powerful shield, for it aligns us with the divine will and places us under God's direct protection. In our journey, following God's word and obeying his commandments guarantees us divine care and security. The battle also reveals the futility of evil forces before God's power. Satan, with all his cunning and strength, could not prevail against the loyal angels. This gives us hope and confidence that, regardless of circumstances, evil can never triumph over those protected by divine grace. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in times of trouble. Another powerful lesson is the importance of community in divine protection. Michael did not fight alone. He led an army of angels, all united in a common purpose. This shows us that as believers we must unite in faith and purpose, supporting one another. The community of faith is God's instrument for our protection and strengthening. Together, we are stronger and more capable of resisting the assaults of evil. God's constant presence during the conflict teaches us about divine vigilance. God not only sends help, but He Himself is present, guiding and strengthening His servants. This comforts us, knowing we are not alone in our battles. God's presence is a promise of continuous protection, a guarantee that He walks with us, regardless of adversities. Finally, Michael's victory teaches us about God's faithfulness to His promises. From the beginning, God promised that good would triumph over evil, and this promise was gloriously fulfilled in the celestial battle. This encourages us to trust in God's promises for our lives. He is faithful and just, and His word never fails. We can rest assured that just as He protected and guided Michael, He will also protect and guide us on our journey. Divine protection is not just a distant theory. It is a present reality in our daily lives. The celestial conflict gives us a clear vision of God's power and care, reinforcing our faith and trust in Him. As we live under divine protection, we are called to be faithful, obedient, and united, knowing that with God on our side, no force of evil can prevail against us.